Yep.
Lovely, thank you, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this chilly November evening. Um, we've got Oliver James, property branding expert, on tonight, who we've had speak before, but the last time we spoke at LMPG, we always like to give our partners a test before we put them out to the general public. We couldn't really do that so much because it would have meant overhauling the entire LMPG brand. Well, we've done that now, and that's because Oliver's kind of convinced us, hey, look, maybe you should try this, maybe you should try that. So we can finally attest for ourselves of his credibility in this regard. So before we jump into it tonight, because it is a slightly different talk if you were here on the last one, when you joined, you will have received two notifications. One, this meeting is being recorded. So if you don't want to be recorded, feel free to stay behind your, what's it called? Not put your video on or anonymize your name or whatever else. Or you can jump over to the Facebook group where we are live streaming this as well. Simulcasting, I think it's called. Apart from that, we'll be taking questions throughout the night, and there's a couple of ways to do it. You can pop something in the chat box, which you can see right here. Otherwise, feel free to kind of jump in as and when and put Oliver on the spot, or indeed any of the speakers that we have in these webinars. It's always a bit of fun. It's always quite enjoyable. It's always, I really like when it's a particularly uncomfortable question as well. So really, without further ado, Oliver, when did we first meet? About a year ago? When did we partner up?
I think it was little bit longer than that, actually. I think it's about 18 months ago.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
So 18 months ago, you came aboard, and I said to you at the time, what we're really good at LMPG is launching the new partners, is getting people off the ground, giving it a bit of a bang, getting the members to know about it, get everyone talking about it. What we're really bad at LMPG is what happens 2 months down the line when we're focusing on brand new partner. And by the way, we're launching a brand new partner next week. We always are looking at what's new. So earlier this year, we were talking about, okay, how can we kind of reinvigorate the partnership a little bit more, get people discussing what kind of strategies they have for their branding, for their marketing, how they position themselves as property investors and property professionals. And to be perfectly honest, I was distracted with 65 other different partners that we were having a bit of a nightmare getting something in the calendar. But smart little cookie that you are, you said, well, I've designed you a new logo. Do you want to jump on a meeting with me, and we'll have a look and we'll discuss it. And we had a discussion about that, and we also had a discussion about giving property branding a fair shake, the one that it deserves, really. So I thought that was incredibly mischievous of you, but also incredibly clever, because you got what you wanted. You actually even won the business off us as well.
Yeah, that's right. I think even added step to that as well is I knew I needed to stand out. And I think that's almost a message as well to property investors, that we need to stand out in what we're doing, especially with investors as well. So I knew I needed to stand out to you. So that's when I approached you, said, I've got an amazing idea for a new branding concept.
Yeah.
And that's not a lie. I did have an amazing idea, which was sketched down, and that initial design was done. But that's when you said, let's have a meeting for a couple of days time.
Mm.
So that's what I was like, right, now I need to get to work.
So you hadn't even drawn it at that point. I didn't even know.
It was drawn. It was drawn. It was,
was it? Okay.
Yeah, the idea that I had in mind was out there. But as a designer, we always wanted to play around a little bit and tweak it a little bit. So that's when I did that and came up with that presentation that we obviously went through as well.
Yeah, I know. I like I said at the time, I was blown away by those initial concepts, and you're dead right in that the standing out was what was mattered. I wasn't trying to be rude. I wasn't trying to brush anyone off. But the reality is, if you've got 100 emails coming into your inbox, all of them saying, "Can we have a meeting?" something's got to give. So standing out and having kind of something that sets you apart and saying, here, now this is an important meeting for you. Now I'm someone to be doing business with is so important. And I understand that's exactly what you're going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's I think we can relate to that as well, in the fact that if we just look at one way of accessing people, LinkedIn, for example, I'm sure we all get surrounded and constantly bombarded with messages saying, I'm a property investor. If you want to invest into property, then reach out. We probably get 10 of these a day. I know I do. And if you're going along that process as well, there's no way you're going to stand out. So being different, thinking outside the box, being a bit proactive in your approach and standing out in the right way is what's going to really grab someone's attention and want to speak to you further.
Yeah, and then the important bit is get those numbers up, right? That's why everyone's in this game, not to be sending out messages that are never going to go answered, but actually start building up the balance, building up the portfolio. So look, I think that's a fantastic segue into kind of what you've got to say, your presentation. So I'm going to throw it over to you. As I said, guys, if you've got any questions throughout the night, feel free to jump on in. But if not, we've got the chat box and we can stop Oliver as and when and ask those, or we'll be taking some questions at the end as well.
Amazing. So what I'll do is I'll go and share my screen. Shout if you can't see it.
Looks good to me.
Let me move this top bar. New full screen. There's the full screen.
Down one. There you go.
There we go. Right, is that all good? Can you see that?
Doesn't seem to have moved the top bar, but it looks good.
It looks good on my side.
Okay. Well, look, we'll live with it. Let's move on.
Okay, amazing. Let me move this as well. There we go. So good evening, guys. Lovely to be here. It's my second time on the NMPG webinar, and I'm really excited to speak to you guys. It's a little bit different talk than it was last time. If you haven't seen the last webinar, I was speaking about the importance of branding and how it can help you, like we were saying earlier, in standing out, raising your profile and looking different to a lot of the other property investors out there, ones that are, basically copying each other and really blending in. So the importance of branding, if you haven't seen it, make sure you go and follow that. Tonight, I want to talk to you about how you can build your property portfolio by attracting investor funds. So how you can really stand out there and become investable. So this is exactly what I want to talk to you tonight about, is how you can become investable within your property business, within your property investment business. I want to go into a little bit of a background about me, because I think it helps for you to understand.
Sorry, Oliver, I think it's still sharing the previous window. I think you might need to share, stop share and reshare, or change the window that you're sharing.
I'll share my entire screen and then that should probably work.
Yeah, that's better. Can you just flick forward and back to make sure that we don't have to do it again? Yeah, there we go. Lovely.
Are good?
Yep.
Amazing. So if we start again, just talking about building your property portfolio using other people's money, attracting investor funds. This is what we're talking about tonight. But most importantly, how you can become investable. A little bit of background about me. I think it gives a bit of context to who I am and why I'm here talking to you guys tonight about this. Is I have been in property for about 6 years. I'm a property investor, property developer myself. But my career starting out is I was a product designer. So I went to university, studied product design, and had quite a successful career, basically designing and developing products. And really enjoyed it, worked my way up to a point where I was constantly flying out to China, to the factory, working and basically getting products to market. But what I really liked about this whole industry is, what really, I guess, interested me more was how a product become market to consumers and why people wanted to buy that product. And that's what really fascinated me throughout the whole of this product design career that I had. But as I say, I was getting very heavily involved in going over to China, which was great for the first few times. But I realized I was over there for 3 weeks at a time, and I was missing friends' weddings. I was missing birthdays, funerals, all to build up, my career for someone else's dream. I know we've heard all this before, but this was my story as well. And if I fast forward a little bit, I became redundant. Basically, I realized that through the sort of network I was building out there, we found a cheaper way to engineer and manufacture products. So all of the design team was being then sent out to China. So that made me redundant. But luckily, I was in the property world. I was networking a lot with other property investors. I was becoming fascinated with everything to do with property. And that's when I realized there's a real lack of understanding in the property industry of the power of brand and marketing, and how it can really help you attract whatever you need. Most often it's property or it's, investor finance. So yeah, during this time of building up my own property business, I've been attracting my own investors and building up a portfolio using, their cash. I realized that I have a really interesting perspective of how I can help other property investors to do the same thing. So that's when I set up Property Branding, and we're the leading property branding marketing agency, helping property investors to really grow, start, and scale their business. And as I say, I've built me a multi-million-pound property portfolio as well. And we're very fortunate to work with hundreds of property clients, ranging from people starting out, so just wanting to get involved in property, to many of whom we see as the experts in the field. One in particular who is actually building out a 1.2 billion pound property portfolio. So let me tell you a little bit more about property branding. So there's 3 core areas of where we help. Often we like to start off in the branding front. So obviously creating logos, building your brand identity, and making sure that your message is relayed properly to your target audience. But we also have the second core pillar, which is the marketing assets, but more specifically property related marketing assets. Obviously we're in the property world, so everything that you'll need, things like deal promos, brochures, investor packs, and so on, is all within that realm of the marketing front. But also the third part is digital marketing. So social media, creating landing pages and funnels, websites, everything that's digital, we're also able to offer as well. So everything you need as a property investor, a landlord, everything that you need under one roof, it comes to property branding. So yes, so as I say, we've worked with hundreds of clients, and here's just a few selections of some of the clients and some of the work that we've done. This is a little case study of someone we've worked with in the past, and Mark came to us. He had a bit of experience in property, quite a lot of experience, but he was really struggling to attract the right type of investor for him, because he wanted to really scale up and build out quite a vast portfolio. And what we did for him was these elements on the left here. So we helped to create a real brand identity for him before he just had a logo. So we actually created a brand identity, and that's where the value comes in. We designed him an investor pack and taught him how to use it. We built up a lead generation campaign so that we could then bring investors to him as well as touching up and developing his website. And over time, we found he attracted 6 new investors, and he's raised over £2 million in private finance, which helped him to double his portfolio to 72 units. And that's all by doing those 4 pieces on the left here. And we've raised his minimum investment amount to £250,000 per investor. So that's how he's really able to scale up quite considerably.
Oliver, you said there that over time he managed to get those results. What time period are we talking? Is that the case of weeks, months, years?
That was in a space of just over 12 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was quite a fast transition for Mark.
And were those goals previously something he was struggling with then?
Yeah, a lot of his investors were people who had typically sort of £50,000, £20,000. I think he had a couple of investors with £100,000, but not the amounts that he wanted, that he needed to secure.
So he was getting investors, but he was, I think the word is busy fool, really, chasing a lot of low value business rather than getting some of the big fish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and to get to the bigger fish, you need to be able to present yourself properly, so they can see you as a credible source of someone that they want to invest in.
Completely. Okay.
So what I want to ask the guys in the room is, as a property professional, do you have yourself an investment strategy for your business? So what I mean by that is, are you simply just trying to buy as much property as possible with your own cash? Are you sort of sitting on your hands at the moment because there could be a crash or recession? Are you just sort of sitting on the sidelines, or do you actually have a pipeline of what you want to be achieving within the purchasing realm of your property business? If you're happy to share that in the comments, that'd be fantastic.
I'm just prompting that now. I would be very, very surprised. These are to be an LMPG member and not have a strategy for property. I would be very, very surprised. It's the whole point of getting into the game, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think the amount of property investors I speak to are sort of just waiting to see. But we found that at the moment, I mean, there's always opportunity. It doesn't matter which way to go, there's always opportunity.
Yeah.
Even with, mortgage interest rates as high as they are, much higher than they have been in the last several years. There's deals in the market that we can actually get now below the asking price, which you haven't really seen for a long time. There's still investors out there that have a shed load of money that, the inflation is eroding it away. So, having a strategy of attracting investors is key to build out that pipeline that you have for your business.
Well, to answer your question, I've had 5 or 6 people that have messaged me privately, actually. So I'm not going to say who's doing what. Maybe there's a bit of competition or nervousness out there, but every single one of them have gone pretty much, yes, of course, I'm not thick.
Love it. Okay, that's good. That's great. So in that case, then I want to ask, what comes first, the deal or the investor? And this is very much a torn sort of argument or debate. I think it's a better word. We have some people say, if you get a good deal, then the money will follow. And others say, we should always work on the money first, because then you can, find the right deal to suit. For me, personally, it's obvious. I think if you have access to the money first, what deals are accessible, that you are able to secure a good quality deal. And most good deals are time sensitive, meaning that you've only got a short period of time to actually secure that scheme or that property. So having access to the cash or to the money to purchase the property, you need to be able to have that first. And it takes time to build up and attract the investors and build up that relationship, build up that trust. So I always say, work on the investor base first, work on your investor pool, because once you have that in place, it will save a shed ton of time in going out sourcing property and then not being able to secure it. So my approach to this is always work on the investor base first, and then the deals will follow. As I say, I've been in running property branding now for just over 4.5 years, and I've seen so many people doing lots of things wrong. And the most important part is they're promoting themselves illegally. Now, I'm not FCA compliant, so I can't give financial advice, and I can't talk about giving you any real suggestions in the FCA compliance factor. I'm coming at this very much from the brand and marketing perspective and how you can attract your investors. But I know from doing this myself that many property investors out there are promoting illegally. And I'm sure everyone else has seen it as well. They have a deal where they say, I need £100,000, and it's an amazing deal. I got £100,000, we give 10% away over a 12-month term. That is promoting illegally. That's a form of inducement, and it will get you in trouble. The worst case scenario is you will end up in prison if you're, caught doing it.
One thing I've noticed, Oliver, funny that you mentioned that, at property meetings that I've attended, they will typically do maybe a minute or 2 minutes for people to stand up and introduce themselves and say why they're there. But there's been a bit more of a clamping down of, okay, if you've got a deal, please make sure that you're not talking about numbers, not talking about guaranteed investment. Just kind of, say, if anyone wants to talk to me about this, then have a conversation afterwards. Now, when that announcement is made, the amount of people that stand up and then kind of fumble through it, not really understanding, okay, how do I say I've got a deal without then breaking all these rules? Because the whole thing has always been about the numbers, and indeed it is about the numbers. But once that constraint is placed on it, they've got nothing else to say. So having something in your back pocket of saying, well, look, I am experiencing this, that, the other, here's my strategy, and I'm looking at continuing that, is I think a much better and a much better way to get yourself across when those constraints are placed on you. And that's happening. I've been to probably 4 or 5 meetings in the last month where they've said exactly that line.
Yeah, I think you raised a very good point there. You can absolutely tell people what you do, so they can understand, what sort of deals that you are doing, but you can't give the details of the opportunity to an unqualified lead. So you can't be saying, I've got an amazing deal, which is a form of, as I say, inducement. You can't give 10% or over 12 months. You can highlight that you've got opportunity and you can go through the process properly, and this is what you do. But yeah, that's the way of bringing them on board without, I guess, committing wrongful in terms of the FCA.
Definitely. Yeah. Unqualified lead, I think, is really important there. You might be in the right room, but that doesn't mean that everyone else in that room knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And going through the process properly is really important. But in other areas that I see a lot of property investors go wrong, they have no marketing strategy. They're often really just pushing quickly, looking at it as a marathon, not a sprint. They're putting all their eggs in one basket for an investor as well. So the amount of times that I hear, oh no, it's fine, I don't need to work on any other investors. I've got one who's, he's got £500,000. He's already said that he wants to work with me. That could be great. However, what happens if his money's tied up, or, the worst happens and he's not able to invest with you, or he, there's so many different variables or reasons why an investor might not be able to invest at that current time. So a big word of warning, if you put all your eggs in one basket for one investor, that's risky. You need to be able to attract multiple investors and have an investor pool. I like to call it investor pool, of people that who you've qualified, what their risk appetite is, what sort of things they want to get involved in. They're keen on working with you, you build up their relationship, and they're willing to go ahead when the deal's there. And as I say, a lot of most property investors, people are lazy in the way that they're promoting deals or themselves, and also make sure you're not illegal. I always like to ask people, do you believe property is a people's business? And I find that most agree that it is. And I think most agree as well that people do business with people they trust. So how then do you build up trust? And why do people invest with people they trust? Well, we found that there's 6 C's in building up trust. And these are the C's that we've got here. So if we're looking at it in terms of yourself and how you're promoting yourself and your message, you've got to make sure that you're consistent in everything that you do. That's really important. Consistency is key. But when you're, again, promoting yourself through various different means and different portals, making it congruent, and that congruency, making sure that everything's working together, so that if someone's looking on your website and then looking at an investor pack of yours and they're different, they're going to be confused, and that's going to raise some concerns. Something simple like that. So making sure everything's consistent and congruent is key. Your message needs to be beautifully clear, and that clarity helps people to understand exactly what it is that you do. And the way that you communicate yourself, being known as someone in a specific thing, the way that you communicate is also really, really important, so they can understand exactly what it is that you do and how you can help them. Make that message compelling, but also be constant in your approach as well. So having someone that constantly sees you, that consistency and that congruency, you know, being constant in your approach is also really, really important. The process that I've found in actually raising investor finance is, again, a little bit different than I believe most see it. The reason for that is because you need to be able to be presentable first before you're actually going out there and attracting some investors that you may shoot yourself in the foot if you don't do it properly. So building the right assets for your business first is really important, because then once you have that all in place, you can then simply just go out there and work on attracting the right investor for you. What does it mean by the assets? Well, I'll talk about that in a second. But the first part is build, then we want to go and attract. That's when we can secure the finance, and that's when we can go and find the property deals. Doing it in this process, I find is very effective and works really well in building up the right relationships with potential investors. So the build element, what is it and what do I mean? Well, I found that there's three core fundamentals of how you can go out there, become investable, and have the right assets for you to onboard potential investors. So before you go out hunting, have these assets in place, and they are branding, the investor pack, and the website. And obviously we do all of these pieces as well in property branding. So if obviously you are looking for some help on this, we can help you with that. But these assets will help you to raise your profile, help you to differentiate yourself to the crowd. We spoke at the start on this call about how it's so important to, you know, really be different in your approach, stand out there so that people will then notice you. It'll gain their attention, but also gain their interest. By doing things properly, like designing these and building these properly, it'll build a solid reputation of who you are and what you stand for. But it's so important to be professional always and build the right impression. And I think, again, this is where a lot of property investors go, you know, fall down, is that they're cutting corners and they're not really thinking about how they're being perceived by the right investor or the right target audience that they're trying to approach. So let's dig a little bit deeper into the branding side. So I find that if you're thinking about networking events, for example, it's harsh, but it's true. People do judge based on appearances. I know it is very sad, but it is true. You know, I can't remember the stat exactly, but I think you're judging someone within the first second of meeting them, and it's very difficult to shape that judgment. So we want to make sure that when we're actually meeting new people and trying to build up relationships, we're doing it with the best way possible, and that's what a true brand identity can help you do. By doing that and understanding who your avatar is, we can make sure that we're really resonating with them properly, standing out and differentiating ourselves so they can see us as a property professional, someone that they want to work with. You know, the first impressions do really count. And I always like to think of your branding as foundations for a house. So if we think about building a new house, you know, having solid foundations is going to make the structure of that building, you know, sound. So that's the same thing for your branding. If you get the branding right, everything else, your message and everything else becomes much more effective. So yeah, build the solid foundations, build your branding, and that really does go a long way. What a huge pet peeve of mine is template logos. And template logos we typically see on these types of these cheaper types of service websites. And most investors, you know, want to go on there and get started straight away, you know, want to just have a cheap logo to get on with. But we find that a cheap logo may be cheap at the forefront, but it can cost a fortune in missed opportunity. Because again, if you're doing the opposite of everything I mentioned before, and you're having the same template logo as everyone else, you're not going to stand out. You have a risk of looking cheap, looking lazy, cutting corners, and just blending in with a noisy crowd because everyone's got this. So yeah, making sure that you don't just go and get a template logo just because, you know, trying to save costs or just get started. Thinking about your approach in this is really important.
Oliver, I've got a question here. Oh, maybe this is going to be the answer. It was what exactly is a template logo? A logo is a logo, isn't it?
A logo is not a logo. So this is a template logo.
A logo is not a logo. That is a branding answer if I've ever heard one.
So logo on its own is just a way to sort of symbolize a business. You know, where the real value comes in is through the brand identity. And this is what I try and sing off the rooftops by saying, you need a brand identity, you don't need a logo. A logo on its own doesn't really do anything. But when I talk about template logos, this is the sort of logo that I've seen, well, that we see, and I'm sure everyone in this webinar has seen this time and time again. These types of logos, just your business name with a roof over the top. All the designer does on Fiverr, they simply go on their little system, they type in property business, they'll come up with these. They simply just change the name, and then they output. It takes them 15 seconds.
Oh, okay. So it's effectively clip art.
Effectively, yeah. And everyone has access to it. So if everyone has
so you can find your logo here. This is obviously a fake one. Real estate, your tagline, the business. You can find that same logo with 50 different businesses. It's all exactly the same, just the name's changed.
Exactly, yeah. You can change the colors as well.
I didn't even know that. It doesn't sound legal to me, to be honest, but I can't believe people are getting away with doing that.
Yeah, I think the way it probably happened is the person that designed this probably sold the registering rights for it, and they're maybe getting a penny or two for every person that uses it.
Okay.
It's like they like licensing the design to Fiverr.
Sure.
But yeah, this is not what branding is. This is a logo, but it's not what branding is. The second piece of the pie, which I want to talk about in the build stage, is the investor pack. And this is an incredibly powerful tool for you as a property investor looking to build up a relationship with a potential investor. And we like to do things differently. We like to break this into three decks rather than one. And again, I see a lot of property investors and people maybe in this room, I don't know, may just have one investor pack which they send out to someone who's expressed interest. That'll tell them everything about themselves, as well as also the opportunity that they want them to invest in. Again, this is against the FCA regulations because you're sending it out to an unqualified lead. Working within this process helps you to build up trust and the relationship up with a potential investor. And maybe people in this room has also heard of, there's typically 7 touch points to build up trust with someone to the point they want to either buy a product, get into a service, or even invest. So going along this process also helps that as well. And you can see where the decks lie. So if we run through it, the deck number 1 is your synopsis. It's basically like an overview to create that powerful impression so someone can really understand who it is, who you are, what you do. You can qualify in or qualify out a potential investor. That saves a lot of time. Also, it gains their interest. So what you'll likely do is you'll meet someone at a networking event, for example, or you may be introduced to someone. That's your initial conversation. You want to send them deck number 1. Then after that, you want to have a follow-up meeting. So this is very much a fact-find mission. So you want to find out as much as possible about them. And you can use that in your advantage later down the line when, if it's over a period of time, you could reach out to them and say, "Oh, John, just want to ask, how was your holiday in Cyprus, and did your son Jack enjoy his time there?" They're like, "Wow, it remembers me. That's amazing." So straight away they're building rapport with you, and they're actually helps them to trust you as well more. Then number 2 is about building credibility. So we're going to more information about a profile of you. And this is the credibility piece where we can demonstrate a lot of our previous properties and our experience in property. So they see you as a experienced property investor, someone that they want to be working with. At this point, again, you have a follow-up meeting. You'll make sure that you stop at this point and properly qualify them so that they can, so that you are abiding by the FCA regulations. And as well as if you are attracting the right type of investor, then they'll likely know the process as well. So as long as you're doing it the right way, that again would be more credibility points. Then number 3 is the opportunity. So the actual the piece that they want to be investing in. And there's a structure to this as well, which we can touch upon very, very shortly. But this is the piece of the pie that they want to either invest the loan in, or they want to do JV with. And this is the opportunity decks. And at this point, you've already qualified them, you've gone through the right process, and then you can secure the finance with them. So again, these are the decks in I guess summary. So what the goal is, introduce yourself. Deck number 2 is the credibility piece. So we want to demonstrate our previous experiences. We want to showcase our knowledge as well. So local knowledge in the area, we'll talk about the strategy that you employ, if there's a specific or quite a creative strategy, and that your stuff, so they can see you as that expert and someone that they feel comfortable with working with. As I say, it's all about building up the credibility. And deck number 3 then is the opportunity, so the piece that they want to be actually getting involved in. The third element on this build stage is a website. And I find it quite interesting, and I get quite a lot that people say, I don't need a website, I'm on social media. It's true that social media is really important. You need to be on social media because it's a very powerful tool of marketing yourself so that people can see behind the scenes and so on and resonate with you. However, as we keep saying, that we're building a professional business here. So what I want to ask the room, what's the first thing that you do when you think of a product or you want to get involved in the service? What's the first thing that you do?
Just while we wait for a few answers to come in there, Oliver, I think first off, you're dead right about the social media versus website thing. The amount of businesses that have had a huge Instagram following, for instance, and then some tech giant over in Silicon Valley have decided, actually, we're not going to do this anymore, we're going to do that instead. And then they just crumble. We've got a Facebook group at LMPG, which has got about 9,000 landlords in. Well, a few years ago, it had about 8,000. This was 4 years ago now. And it just decimated because Facebook changed the way that they want to do groups. We went down to 3,500. Now, thankfully, we're not relying that as a lead gen tool. It's just there to landlords help landlords. And we've managed to grow it again since, because we're not trying to make any money off it, to be honest. But if we'd have been completely reliant on that and not had, an email database, if we'd not had the CRM that we've got, if we've not had the website, we'd all been scratching our heads and starting to go around and say, who's getting fired next then? Because we literally, our audience halved overnight. Bunch of answers coming in. They're all basically saying Google it, apart from one guy who's decided to say Bing it. So yeah, look, maybe he's going to Bing it.
No, you're exactly right. You Google it. If you think of something,
the Bing guy's wrong.
You're going to Google it. So you're constantly trying to search for information online. You're looking for online presence. So investors are going to do the same with you. They're going to seek validation online, and if you don't have an online presence, then again you're raising concerns in the investor's mind. And if this is relatively early on in the process of building up trust with them, this could become an issue, because if they're raising concerns early on just from something simple like not having a website, then it can grow like Japanese knotweed and just fall down from simple things like not presenting yourself properly, and them not trusting you. I know it sounds messy, but it's true. So why do you need a website? So as I said, that online presence, you can shape your website in exactly the way that you want to be perceived. It's your online sales tool for working for you 24/7. Helps you to gain credibility. So again, you can showcase your previous properties and your previous experiences. Helps you to become an expert as well. So you can build in their valuable resources, things like blogs, guides, so that they can see that you know what you're talking about, and they can do their due diligence on you when you're not in the room to defend yourself. Is that social proof, and also increased accessibility as well. So if you don't actually know someone at all and they've found you on Google, then that helps you to be increased accessibility, because then they can reach out to you, they can get in touch, and that email can go to your CRM or can go straight to your email itself. So it's very important to have a website. All businesses have websites. So if you don't have one, I'd seriously recommend that you do have one. Even something simple, just like one pager, just so you've got that online presence. That does have a tick in the box there.
Just a quick question, Oliver, before we do get into the next part. You mentioned that you guys do websites as well, right, for clients?
That's right. Yeah, correct.
I'm assuming that's WordPress based then.
So we build
Oh.
on WordPress. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So there's two stages to it. We design a wireframe first, so we can actually design out the look and feel. We can structure it around to make sure it's designed in the best and most effective way. Again, the structure of a website is really important. And again, most investors I find do it wrong in terms of they're very heavily promoting themselves. You know, most of the time when we get clients say, build us a website, here's the copy for it. The first piece and most of it is about the about section. And investors don't really care until they know that you care about them and that you can answer their problems. So what I mean by that is they don't really want to know that, you know, your grandfather has been in property. So that means that you're in property. That means that you are a property investor. You know, they want to know that you answer their problem. And often their problem is obviously, you know, they want to utilize their money. They want to invest it in diversified different places, and property is a safe place to do that. So they want to know that you can answer that problem. And once they can sense that, then they will want to know more about you and who you are as a property expert. So having a structure of a website is really important. And
I would agree. Yeah, the only thing worse than not having a website, in my opinion, is having a crap website where it's just turning people away. We had that a few years ago. Thank God we're not in that situation anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's important to have a good quality website. As I say, it's shaping your perception of, and it's selling you whilst you're not there.
Perfect. And I'm assuming because it is WordPress, if the client does want to make any changes or something going forward, like maintenance side of things, how difficult would you say is the learning curve?
In changing, I mean,
yeah, say if I wanted to update some information that's on my homepage, for instance, like just changing the text and stuff.
Yeah, changing the text and changing headlines is nice and simple. You know, going into the actual back end of it and changing that is pretty simple. You know, we often sort of create quick videos for our clients just to sort of show them how to do that. But if there's, you know, if our clients then want to add sections on or change parts of it quite considerably later down the line, then we highly recommend that they get in touch and let us know about that, because with WordPress, bear me 1 second, the lights are turning off, so
I mean, to be honest, it does kind of, I mean, as long as you know stuff like Microsoft Word or, you know, text editors in that sense, like the smaller stuff, I guess, would be, you know, relatively easy, right?
Yeah, the small stuff like changing text is nice and simple, and even just
you don't actually need to code or anything.
No, you don't. No, for the interface that is on the back end that we create is all user friendly. We do obviously code in there, but that's sort of not visible in a way. But that's what I'm saying is if you want to change large parts of it, then it can quite easily fall down, because then if you move things around, that will then conflict each other and fall down. Yeah. If large parts are changing, then we always say to our clients, you know, let us know what you want to do, and we can help with that.
Yeah.
Step number 2 then in this process is attract, and I'm conscious of time. How much time do we have left?
We got a fair bit, so we can continue. I've got probably 5 or 6 longish questions that have come throughout, but I'll save those to the end.
Okay, amazing. So part number 2 is attract, and again, I could talk large detail about this, but we can say that maybe for the next webinar. But I want to make clear that, you know, your marketing strategy and the way that you attract investors is not just social media. This is another area that I find a lot of property investors fall down, is that they simply just go and create content and putting it into property specific Facebook groups. And although it's great to obviously boost out your network and boost that confidence and telling people what you do, if you're looking for you know, investors and you're only speaking to other property investors, you know, people doing exactly the same thing as you, are you going to find someone that wants to invest with you £500,000, for example? The answer is maybe not. And also, if someone does have £500,000 cash that they want to invest with you, are they going to be hanging out on Facebook every day? Again, the answer is likely not. So you need to know who your investor is, so that you can then work out how to access them and get in front of them, differentiate yourself, stand out, get in their interest, grab their attention, and then onboard them throughout the process. So yeah, having more than just social media is really important. When you're going to different places, things like maybe other business networking events, not everyone's going to have a name badge that says that they're an investor. You're not going to say, I'm an investor, I want to invest with you, or I have £100,000. So you've then got to identify who that person is. And by going back, as I said, through the branding process and working out the avatar, you know where they're hanging out. So you know how to then go and meet with them, chat with them and build up relationships with them who could be your potential investor. But the important part of this process is your message and how you relay that message to the investors as well. I mean, there's a really powerful book called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And if you think about every film, every book, every story, it's all structured in a similar way, or almost the exact same way. I mean, Donald Miller argues that there's only 3 films out there ever made because there's 3 different sort of plots. Most plots of films are structured in the same way. So making sure that again, like your website, for example, structuring that into a story will help grip someone. It'll make sure that they're engaged and they want to know more, and that's how you can really get someone to want to find out more and work with you more. But making sure that your message and your core offer is put out there properly helps to align with your brand identity as well, because that's, again, throughout the process you help to understand what the message is. And as I always say, be professional and make a powerful impression as well. Helps with your message. The third part then is the secure phase. So you always need to make sure that you're FCA compliant and you're doing things in the right way. There's typically 2 types of lending circles out there. You've got the secondary circle, people like friends, family, work colleagues, neighbors, people that you already know. You already know them. They hopefully like you. And hopefully they have some element of trust in there as well. So getting sort of 20K, 50K, depending on what sort of circles that you're in, what sort of friends that you have, most start on this side. And it's typical amount, that's sort of a very frequent amount. But if you want to be buying, larger schemes or places with cash, you need to be attracting a higher caliber type of investor. And people like, other angel investors, high net worths, private funds and so on. So we call them more sophisticated investors. And this is where it's really key to present yourself properly and go through the right process properly. That will really help to have access to those types. As I say, be FCA compliant always. And there's a really fun read that you'll enjoy going through. It's a policy statement, PS 20/15. This is where you can learn much more detail about what you need to be doing, the criteria and the guidelines of how you can, qualify an investor properly and go through this process. It's for you to obviously read and understand properly. And again, I can't give you advice on that. But that's the policy statement that you want to be reading. There is a guide that we've written as well. So if you want to learn more and have something that's more tangible, we can send you over a guide which goes into more detail as well. But on the back end of this talk, well, first of all, I hope you found that really helpful, and I hope there's lots of key takeaways in that as well. I'm sure there'll be questions at the end. But do you want to go now, or do you want to go through this piece, Anthony?
Let's run through this quickly, because I think the ones we're going to have to go back and forth a little bit with some of these questions. Okay.
So as I'm sure you've all seen, LMPG have now rebranded. It was Monday where the rebrand happened, and we're very honored to be the guys who have rebranded LMPG. And as Anthony was saying at the start, there's quite a fun story where I approached him and presented him an idea that would be a great idea to rebrand the company. So through that process, we presented the initial concepts. we developed it and worked on some other brand components as well, and helped to really get the logo and the brand nailed down here. And this is what you can see, this design here. So the reason for that is because this is the original logo. I'm not sure if you can remember that, but there's
It was only last week, Oliver.
But what I found actually is some people can really remember logos, and some people not so much. So yeah, this is the original logo, and there's a few things here that we noticed that is the reason why, you know, I thought it was really important to rebrand. So the main one, first of all, is obviously we know LMPG as LMPG. However, the logo was the Landlords National Purchasing Group. That was the pure name on the logo, which could be very confusing for many people that are trying to understand who they are and what they do.
It was a bloody nightmare. The amount of events that I've been to, and I've been standing next to Landlords National Purchasing Group. Someone comes over and goes, "Hey, Landlords National Purchasing Group, what do you do then?" And I'll say, "Oh, we're LMPG." And they go, "Oh, LMPG. Yeah, no, I know who you are. I thought you were someone completely different." So we've got this reputation as LMPG, and yet the logo's throwing them off, because that does not look like it says LMPG. Also, it's this, you can't scale it because the letters are too small.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, if this was in your icon, you know, your profile picture for like Instagram, for example, that text would be tiny and
Won't stand a chance. No.
So that was priority number one. The composition of the logo as well is a little bit out there. You know, there's lots of things going on. You've got different size fonts. You've got a line there. This is moving in. The logo mark itself is massive. So working on the composition, you know, making sure that was structurally sound was also really important to develop. We've got the logo mark itself, which when I first looked at it, I saw that a Nike logo, and I didn't quite know what it was until you know, digged it a little bit deeper. And also there's a gradient in here as well. And if you're thinking about both print and digital, gradient is a very difficult thing to get right, because if you're printing it, then you can have blotches. It also becomes much more expensive if you print on a larger scale. Yeah, it's very much different on print and digital. So that was one highlight there as well that we wanted to highlight, you know, looks to change. So these are the core elements that we presented and highlighted. So we had the opportunity then to obviously present our design and what we felt would work well for LMPG. So we come up with some initial concepts. So we sketched out lots of ideas. We wanted to make it the main focal point, obviously calling it LMPG. So we wanted to have a nice word mark here so that people can see LMPG and have that as its own individual word mark, but carry forward potentially having a logo mark as well, which can be either seen on its own and be recognized on its own, but also can be combined with the word mark and have the full logo. So we're looking at different ideas and presented different things. And this design here, which you can see, was the initial concept that we presented properly over to the guys at LMPG. There's a few design points here. So it was important, as this was a rebrand, to, you know, come across this in a fairly delicate way, and keep some characteristics which you can still see that and see LMPG, even though it's designed, you know, it's changed somewhat. So it's important to keep the same brand colors. We wanted to evolve the logo mark, still with the same design concept of the three entities sort of maybe swirling together. So this is where we've come up with this design here. And we also wanted to produce a beautiful word mark which had the name of LMPG so people could recognize it, but we wanted to keep the Landlords National Purchasing Group underneath, which is obviously what LMPG stands for. So we designed mock-ups and we presented this concept. The comments that came back to us was there's a real requirement to incorporate a house icon into the logo mark. That was the main point raised. So we obviously wanted to evolve this design and tweak it to include that as well. But we were brainstorming, we wanted to make it, I guess, a bit more subtle. That's not, you know, in your face, that this is property. You want to do it in a nice, delicate, clever and smart way. So this is the final logo that we designed. You can see the word mark is still the same as you saw previously. We pretty much nailed that. But we developed the logo mark to still be the three sort of entities, but we've have in negative space the outline of a property there. So we're able to incorporate that property aspect as well. We also wanted to highlight as well the importance of the composition. So you can see here how we've done that. So spacing is very important, and the composition is structurally sound, so that when it's on various marketing components, various marketing assets, you know, that is structurally sound. And I don't know if you've been to the website yet and checked it out, but it's all throughout the website. So make sure you go and check that out. It's all, you know, transitioned nicely through everything. It's on social media, it's in the website, you know, it's on email footers, and everything's flown through, which is fantastic. So yeah, make sure you go and check it out. And this is I guess a semi case study of what we've done, what we thought of, and how we approached the project. But yeah, I'm very, very honored to be the guys that have obviously redesigned NMPG as a proud partner.
And well, look, I didn't want to interrupt you there, but we're really glad that you've done such a great job with it, because it would have been bloody awkward if it had been crap, to be honest.
Yeah.
But we're really happy. It's such a huge step forward. And one of the big things for us is that it as you said, it's brand new. You know, every part of it is different, really, but it still maintains that, I don't know whether to call it heritage, whether that's a bit much, but it still feels LMPG to us. We don't feel like a new company. We feel like we're now representing the best side of ourselves, and that's the kind of, I think that's the bit that you're paying for, to be honest, from my perspective, of that experience of knowing exactly what that indeterminate aspect the brand really is all about. So no, appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Exactly.
I also want to personally thank Oliver on this one. As someone who looks at the LMPG logo about 200 times a day, you know, constantly having to change it around, whether depending on where I'm using it, this just makes my life so much easier as well. Awesome.
Glad to hear. That's brilliant. And I think, yeah, most new brands are very delicate as well. We've always got to come across it in a delicate way, because, you know, there is always reputation built up with a previous design, and there's people that know a business from the previous, you know, logo. So it's very important to make it feels right, and that the rebrand feels like it's the new face, but it's not taken away, not completely alien from before. So yeah, I'm glad that you're happy with the way it came out. But this is me. So if you liked what you heard, liked what I said, you can find me at these different places. So my number, my email address, obviously check us out on website, online, on social media as well. If you want to book in a call and want to do it in a nice, quick way, you can scan the QR code, and you can book in a call with me directly in a time that suits you. But that's me this evening, and we are Property Branding, helping you make your mark.
Lovely, thank you. Well, I've got Richard in the comments going through every aspect of the website, telling us where we need to change our logo because we've missed it. So thank you so much for that, Richard. While you continue to do that, I've actually got some other members that have got, oh, he's still going. I've asked some questions. Now, we might be jumping back and forth a bit throughout this, but so right at the beginning, there was a slide you mentioned about the 6 C's, I think it was.
And, 6 C's, yeah.
So one of them said something about compelling message. There we go. Make your message really interesting, informative, and inspiring. How do you do that? How do you set yourself apart as a property professional if you're, let's say, reasonably new to the game, and say, well, I've got a compelling message? Because if they already knew that, they'd already be doing it. So how do they drag that out of themselves?
I love to work with my clients and create a one-liner. So if you know the American approach, you know, the older elevator pitch, you know, have that concept in mind. But what one-liner is basically a way to structure a conversation. So if you're, again, meeting someone at a networking event, or if you're meeting someone for the first time, you're always going to be asked, what do you do? So if you can structure the conversation, start off with in a compelling way, so that you can then guide the conversation in the way that you want to guide it, you can make it interesting. You can actually grab their attention and make it resonate with them. It's not going to resonate with everyone, you know. Not everyone's going to be a potential investor for you, but it helps you to stand out so that someone can understand it quickly, what it is you do. And I find it quite interesting as well through the branding process. We always do a initial strategy session, and I always like to tell, you know, get the clients to say, tell me what your business does in one sentence. And if you can't do that, then it's a bit too complicated. So if you don't understand, if you can't write it in one sentence, you don't really know what you do. So if you're trying to get that message across to people who want to learn quickly what you do, being able to define that in one simple way helps you to, you know, grab the attention, to guide the conversation, to you know, interest a prospective investor, and tell them what you do in a very easy and you know, that clarity as well.
So, for instance, someone's put in the chat here, they do HMOs. They're a property investor dealing in HMOs in York. Now, that's fantastic, but how many other HMO property investors are there in York? God knows. So, are you saying that they put their personality into it? What is it exactly that sets them apart? Because do they need to be entirely unique as well?
You don't have to be entirely unique, because, you know, HMO is a concept or a strategy that a lot of people employ, but not everyone knows it. So if you're speaking to someone that hasn't even heard of that term HMO, then you don't have to be completely different to every single HMO provider. You know, there's only so many ways you can skin a cat, I think it's the right saying.
So that's quite interesting though. So you're saying that you also not just tailoring yourself and your message, but to specific investors, because it didn't even occur to me. Yeah, of course, some people don't know what HMO means.
Yeah.
So who are you trying to attract as well? And kind of, you can hold someone's hand a lot better if they've got no idea, because all of a sudden you're the expert.
Yeah, exactly. And we in my group as well, we have someone who wrote down, you know, I work with everyone or anyone who wants to invest into property. I do X, Y, Z. And I made it clear to them that if you say I work with anyone who wants to invest into property, that's really speaking to no one, because how is that going to resonate with your avatar of investor?
Sure.
You know, they don't necessarily know that they're that anyone. So you want to be a bit more clear in who it is, and that's where it's important, again, to work out who that avatar is and how you want your message to be put across to them. Because if you want to work with someone and if you're, you know, a bubbly person who has a lot of character and wants to work with our investors the same, you know, injecting your personality in there as well is important, because you want to be working with people that you want to be working with. So incorporating your message in there and your personality in there is really important. But if you're looking for someone who has, you know, £1 million plus, and if you establish that they're, you know, I don't know, a VC or a director of a large company, then you've got to make sure that you're, I guess, probably going to be a bit more corporate, maybe, in approaching it the right way. So
they've got different expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, brilliant. That was a great answer. You mentioned a lead gen exercise somewhere. I think it was this guy that did. Yeah, it was a case study. It was a black slide, and they'd attracted 6 investors or something. So you mentioned that part of what you built for this person and built for your clients is a lead gen exercise. And you also mentioned later on about social media as well, not being all about social media. There's other things going on. So what does that look like? and how do you make that a process for a business? A lot of our members not only want to kind of create these things for their businesses, but they want to be able to scale it and make it a process so that they don't have to be hands-on, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, having to meddle with all this kind of thing. So what does that look like from your perspective?
Yeah, so a lead gen campaign, I'm sure lots of people in the room have stumbled across a landing page. So a landing page is effectively a one-page site that is separate to your main website. So it's very much intentional. So it's there for one purpose. And often that purpose is to gain more contacts, to build out a contact base. So what the purpose is there is that there's a way to entice people to impart with their details, usually in order to get something in return. So that's the hook. That's a way of, as I say, enticing them to put their name, put in their email address and their number. There's various different ways of having that hook. It could be a guide, it could be booking a free call, it could be watch this high value video. There's so different things that it can be. So you're promoting that on the landing page, and this is what we did for Mark as well. So we designed him an easy step guide to follow that we obviously promoted the headlines for it, so it grabbed the attention, promoted the benefits and the outcomes of downloading this guide. And the only function on the site was purely to input your information and download. Because if you have multiple buttons in there, then you're going to be sending people other places, and you've potentially lost that lead. Because, that's why having it individual is really important. So the information there will go to a CRM, so a customer relationship management tool, where you can actually then also, which we did for Mark as well, we set up an email sequence. I don't know how detailed you want me to go, but there's typically two types of sequence. There's a sales campaign and there's a nurture campaign as well. So it helps people straight away, because they're often starting off quite hot. They want this thing that you're offering them. So yeah, the first part of the email sequence is the hot sort of salesy part, not too salesy, especially in the investor part, attracting investors, because you want to be presenting yourself in the right way and being a bit more delicate than you would be if you're trying to sell a £20 product. You want to be approaching it in the right way. So being delicate in this approach is more important. But yeah, this is what we did for Mark. And there's different ways as well of getting people onto the landing page. So it can be through paid social media, can be through organic means as well. So putting it in different places, creating content organically and sending people to the landing page, having it everywhere as well on the email footer. You can even link it to your website as well, and then sending them straight to the landing page. There's different ways of sending people there organically as well as paid. But yeah, that's what we did for Mark, and it worked really well.
I think that's really interesting, because I've seen that process of a free whatever it is, bit of content, bit of value. Here's how we made X amount. Here's how I do this. Here's the secrets to this strategy, whatever it is. I've seen that, but I very rarely see it actually in property. It's always everywhere else. And usually because I'm seeing the paid ads and I'm going, oh, I'll have that, I'll have that, I'll have that. And then I get a phone call and saying, oh, you're interested in that. Do you want to sign up? So in terms of setting yourself apart as a property investor, I think that's a phenomenal idea, to be honest. I've got a comment here from Doug saying, job interviews are decided in the first 15 seconds. I'm a recruiter and can tell you this is true 95% of the time. So I think that's referencing, you mentioned people's first impressions. It's an unfortunate truth. If you walk into a room and you start talking and you've got you're saying all the right things, what are they actually remembering? Unfortunately, not always what you've told them, but the business card you've given them at the end, or how you presented it yourself, or how you've dressed, or whatever else.
Yeah. I mean, the same thing. Like if you go to a networking event and someone's smelly, they're wearing a bad suit. You're just mentally shaping that person. As I say, it's a shame, but it's true. People do judge based on appearances, and often the first thing that someone sees visually of your business in that environment is likely a business card. They may, if they're getting like a Vistaprint card that's flimsy, you've got a template logo on there and it's poorly put together, versus someone that has actually done it in a much nicer way. And I'm not saying you're going to win business based on your business card. I'm not saying that at all. But it helps in getting people on board. And within those 15 seconds, as Doug says, giving you the best chance possible, you may as well do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Final question for me then we're going to throw over to our regular feature. It's becoming a regular feature, which is Bhavesh's most difficult question of the week. So get ready for that, Bhav. But before we move on to that, final question here from a member, which is about the decks that you mentioned. Your deck 1, deck 2, deck 3. Now, deck 3, we can understand. That's the bit where you're really saying, and here's the opportunity. Deck 1, this is who I am. This is kind of what I'm interested in. But deck 2, not really understanding the marcations of that. So what exactly is the difference between deck 1 and deck 2? You've already introduced yourself, right?
Yeah, you're introducing yourself. You're creating that impression on the first part, which is really telling people what you're about and what you do. But deck number 2 is much more in depth. It's much more the credibility piece, so they can actually see what you've done in the past, where your level of expertise is. There can be some social proof in there as well, so there could be a testimonial from previous investors, so that everything's in there of what is your service in terms of how you work with other investors and what you're really looking for. You could even incorporate in there as well your mission, because there's again another powerful video by Simon Sinek, The Power of Why, and if you haven't watched it, it's amazing. It's about 15 minutes long. And he's saying that people don't really care what you do. They care why you do it. So if you're on a mission for building out social housing, and the reason you're doing that is because you want to be able to take 200 people off the street and give someone a new home, that's your mission, that's your why, and people come along and are enticed by that mission. So you can really grip someone with that. So telling people why you're doing, what your mission is and what your core values are and how that works well together. That's what I'd incorporate in deck number 2, more so than I would deck number 1, because that's a way to just really create a nice impression, and it's the first sort of visual cues that they'll see about who you are and what you do. And as I say, you can qualify someone in and qualify someone out quite quickly in that. It's only when you know that they're more interested is that you want to give that information away of deck number 2.
Yeah, I think that's a really great answer actually with regards to the why element of it. Property, even the short-term things, let's say you're flipping a property, you need some quick investment, and then they'll get the cash at the end. Even if it's 6 months, that's still reasonably long-term. That's long enough for you to take that money and run for the hills. So having a why, having a purpose behind it of saying, but they're doing this for this reason, rather than just to make a bit of money. Because if they want to make a bit of money, there's no reason to follow through.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, Bav, it's over to you, mate. I'm looking forward to this.
You started hyping this up more and more as we go along in the season.
It's going to get worse. I'm going to have
to be honest. To be honest, I've got a handful of questions, so we're gonna have to make this like a rapid fire round or something.
I just want the most difficult one because I do need to talk about who we've got next week.
Okay, all right, brilliant. Not sure how to judge like what the most difficult one would be. But going a bit more in depth into what you just mentioned there, Oliver, would you say the story aspect is like one of the most important aspects when it comes to the branding side of things? Like, is that the thing that sells the idea the most?
The lights going off again. Bear with me a second. Sorry.
You know what? It was such a good question. He's ran away.
I've just gone and just taken all the electricity out of his room with that question.
I thought I'd stay late in the office today, and everything's all the lights are on, also queued.
Motion,
So, yeah.
So
All right,
yeah,
what's the question again?
just to reiterate, yeah, would you say, just piggybacking off of what you just mentioned there, would you say that story, like just the storytelling aspect and carefully communicating the story is one of the most important aspects when it comes to branding, or like when it comes to, promoting oneself?
Yes. And when I say yes, if you think about brand, everyone sees the brand a little bit differently, and how they sort of perceive a brand is a little bit different. So if you think about Apple, for example, there is a story built in there. There is a feeling that someone, there's a vocal feeling that you think of when you think of Apple, you see Apple and so on. And getting someone along on the journey of, again, your mission of why you're doing what you're doing, that's part of your story. So through your brand identity, through your branding, through everything, through your marketing, through your brochures, website, and so on, that's all branding. Everything that someone sees of you is branding. So making sure that's in line with your purpose, your mission, your journey, your story, so that someone can resonate with that. That's really important. That's why a logo on its own doesn't do anything, because it's just a way to just slap, a visual cue on something, and there's not really a way of people resonating with that. So yeah, incorporating the story into your branding is where it becomes powerful. And I was at a conference a few weeks ago, and they said that the biggest businesses out there aren't a business with a brand; they're actually a brand that runs a business. So if you're getting grips, if you get the consumers or the target audience to buy into that story, buy into that brand, then you've got them, and that's what they'll stay loyal, and they'll want to come aboard and really seek out more from you, whatever you come out with, either more products or other services. In our sense, obviously, with our investors, they want to keep coming and investing with us. Maybe telling other friends and other investors to get involved as well. So yeah, incorporating your story is extremely important and very powerful.
I saw Bab nodding along to that one at the end. So you're gonna have to explain that one to me tomorrow, mate, because the other stuff I can understand, but the brand with the business with the brand, I'll speak to you tomorrow about. Oliver, I've got a few people asking for your contact details, so can you ping back over to that slide? And I'm going to talk about what we've got going on next week, which I actually cannot believe is finally here. But we mentioned back in August, I want to say, we parted company with our electrical wholesaler, Alert Electrical at the time. We've been with them for years and years and years. And we were going to try and find someone else. And we found someone else, and it was going to be a matter of weeks. Well, look, it's been a matter of months. But next week, we will finally have a face-to-face with Rexel, and we'll be launching them tomorrow. So we're going to have an electrical wholesaler back on the books, not just an electrical wholesaler this time, but a national electrical wholesaler with thousands upon thousands of items. That's why it's been so hard getting them here, getting them launched, is the amount of items that go through this. So this is not an opportunity, by the way, to batter them. This is an opportunity to say hello, to introduce them, and get a real life property investor perspective of what they've got to offer LMPG. So we're very excited. I've been pulling my hair out for months about this one, so really excited to get these guys on. But tonight, thank you so much for coming, guys. Really enjoyed this talk, as I do all of your talks, Oliver. They get a little bit complicated for me sometimes, but I like looking at pretty things, so I get there in the end. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and yeah, we'll speak to you very soon.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed this one. It's been really good.
Good stuff. Cheers, guys. We'll see you next week.